Welcome in, everyone, to Lively Lewis Stories.
That's right, we're back with even more awesome adventures with Levi and Ivy.
Set your storytime meter to fun and get ready to join the Lively Lewis crew.
All you need is your imagination and...
Off we go! I can't wait to see where our story takes us today.
Have you ever wanted to get more Lively Lewis in your life?
Well, we've got you covered.
Grab an adult and zoom over to livelylewisshop.com.
Or just click on the link in our show notes.
Enough about that. Let's get to today's super Lively Lewis story.
Levi and Ivy were playing together in their backyard as they did most nights. The weather was getting warmer as winter turned into spring, and they took every opportunity they could to enjoy the nice weather. Levi practiced soccer as Ivy created a wonderful gnome in a fairy garden. As she worked to create the perfect place for her garden friends to call home, Ivy asked for Levi's help. She needed a few more rocks to act as mountains in the distance of her make-believe land and called on Levi to grab some for her. He dribbled over with 3 rocks in his hand and tossed them in the direction of Ivy's grand garden creation. The rocks skipped and rolled toward the tiny houses, fences, and play area Ivy had created for any gnome or fairy that wished to call her garden home. So when she saw the rocks making their way toward what she had worked so hard to create, she screamed. Ivy reached out her hand to stop the rocks. That, along with her loud scream, caught her mom's attention. "Ivy, what's wrong?" she called as she turned away from the book she was reading on the deck. "Levi!" exclaimed Ivy as she stopped the rocks right before they smashed one of her gnome houses. "What are you doing? It took me forever to make this little garden village." Ivy looked relieved as she stopped the rocks, but was still mad at her brother for being so careless. "Whoa, I'm sorry, Ivy," replied Levi, sitting down on the ground by his sister. "I didn't realize the rocks were going to go so far." At that point, Levi and Ivy's mom had made her way over to see if she could help. "Is everything okay over here?" she asked. She could tell Ivy was upset. "It is now because of my quick reflexes, but Levi almost flattened part of my gnome and fairy garden by throwing a bunch of rocks over here," explained Ivy. "I didn't throw them. You asked for them, and I rolled them your way," added Levi. "Okay, I see what's happening here," said Levi and Ivy's mom. "It was just an accident, Ivy. I'm sure Levi didn't intentionally try to mess up your lovely garden creation. And Levi, just remember, next time you're around something so delicate, you must treat it with kid gloves." Levi and Ivy both looked at their mom like she was speaking a different language. What were kid gloves? And since they were kids, shouldn't they have a pair of them? "Do you mean I should start wearing special gloves to make my gnome and fairy gardens? Do I have to wear these special kid gloves to play soccer or when I ride my bike?" asked Levi. "Do they come in cool colors? And are they waterproof? I could wear them when we go to the beach and I make sandcastles," said Ivy, sounding more excited about these new kid-friendly accessories. "Oh yeah, good idea. And I could get a pair for when I rebuild my block towers," added Levi. "Maybe a pair with lightning bolts on them. That would be cool." The whole time her kids were talking, Levi and Ivy's mom tried to hold back her laughter until she couldn't anymore and let out a giggle. "What? Do they not make lightning bolt kid gloves?" asked Levi, looking a bit disappointed. "No, Levi, it's not that," began their mom. "There are no actual kid gloves. Well, I mean, there are gloves that kids wear, like snow gloves, gardening gloves, and baseball and softball gloves. But the gloves I was talking about are just an expression." "An expression?" asked Ivy, sounding confused. "So I'm not getting bike riding kid gloves?" asked Levi. "Let me explain," said their mom. "The expression treating something with kid gloves is something people say when they are meant to be careful and treat something gently. Like, for example, Ivy, your gnome and fairy garden is delicate, so Levi needs to be careful around it, is what I meant." Levi and Ivy took a minute to take in all the information their mom had just given them. Although they wanted the cool kid gloves they had imagined in their minds, they now understood what she was talking about. "Sorry if you're disappointed, but it's important to ask what something means if you're unsure," Levi and Ivy's mom said. "If you don't ask, that can sometimes lead to miscommunication or misunderstanding of what someone is saying. And sometimes that can have some silly results. Imagine if I never told you what kid gloves were, and you both started wearing gloves all the time when you played with your friends. That would be super silly." Hearing his mom's explanation made Levi think of something his teacher said in school the day before. "Oh, I get it now. It's like when Mr. Lopez told our class we had to stay inside for recess because it was raining cats and dogs," said Levi. We all got really excited and said we'd love to play with a bunch of cats and dogs at recess. But he told us that it was just meant it was raining really hard. Then Ivy remembered something similar that had happened at her school too. The other day, I thought I heard my friend Erin say we couldn't play our favorite computer game at her house because her computer was sick, said Ivy. I mean, how can your computer get a cold? But it turns out she meant a computer virus, which just means there was something wrong with the way it was working. That's it exactly, said Levi and Ivy's mom, who laughed once again as she thought about the funny ways words can mean different things. Then she walked back to the deck to finish reading her book, leaving her kids to play. Levi helped Ivy place her mountain rocks in the garden, and then he went back to playing soccer. Thank you, Levi, and don't forget to wear your kid gloves if you come back over here to help in my garden, giggled Ivy. Of course, replied Levi with a big smile. I'll wear my favorite pair with the lightning bolts on them to make sure I don't wreck a single gnome house or fairy pool. Then as Levi and Ivy continued to play in the backyard, they heard their mom's cell phone ring. When she picked it up, they knew immediately it was their mom's best friend, McCall. They would talk forever about anything and everything, and tonight was no exception. And perhaps Levi and Ivy should have remembered their mom's advice about asking for an explanation if something you hear confuses you or doesn't seem quite right. But I guess if they did, we wouldn't have this silly story to tell. The night went on and the sun began to set in the sky. As it did, Levi and Ivy's mom continued her conversation with her best friend McCall. Levi and Ivy weren't listening closely to what their mom was saying as they had soccer to practice and gnome and fairy houses to build. But every once in a while, they heard a little something over the light breeze, rustling leaves, and the neighborhood noises that filled the air. And a few of the things they heard really caught their attention. Hey, Levi, called out Ivy to her brother. Come over here. Levi, who was playing nearby, ran over to Ivy with a smile on his face. Did you hear what Mom said? He asked before Ivy could even say one word. I sure did, replied Ivy. Do you think she's serious? I mean, why would she lie to her best friend? Said Levi, trying to make sense out of what they had both just heard. As they talked more, they heard their mom say something else that they couldn't believe, just before she ended her call and told them to finish up what they were playing and come inside to get ready for bed. But before they did, they had to discuss what they had just heard. Levi, you heard it too, right? Asked Ivy. I just want to make sure that I'm not the only one who heard Mom say it. Nope, I heard it too, said Levi excitedly. And we have to try it. I mean, we just have to. Okay, great. But which one should we try first? Asked Ivy. Brushing our teeth with chocolate or washing our hair with marshmallows? Yep, you heard that right. Levi and Ivy heard their mom saying that brushing your teeth with chocolate makes them sparkly and clean, and that washing your hair with marshmallows makes it shiny and soft. Or at least that's what they thought they heard. But for two very creative and curious kids who were both big fans of chocolate and marshmallows, they didn't want to look any further. They loved what they heard and they were going with that. And before they ran inside for bed, they came up with a plan to try out their mom's sweet and sugary beauty treatments for themselves. Okay, so when we go in, you're going to grab a bar of chocolate from the cupboard and I'll grab the bag of marshmallows that Dad hid behind the pretzels, said Levi to Ivy. It's a good thing Mom just bought stuff to make s'mores, added Ivy. Or how else would we be able to try this new and amazing beauty routine? Maybe she wasn't thinking of making s'mores when she bought all that stuff. Maybe she was thinking of doing a spa day at home, replied Levi. That's a good point, said Ivy. We'll make sure to leave her enough chocolate and marshmallows so she can use them this week. And with their plan put together, Levi and Ivy set off to have a spa day of their own. That is, if Willy Wonka ran a spa. They grabbed their supplies and ran upstairs, putting the chocolate and marshmallows in the bathroom closet under some bath towels. They wanted to try out their mom's beauty tips and didn't want any help. After all, Levi and Ivy considered themselves experts when it came to chocolate and marshmallows. So, how hard could it be? Both their parents had some work to take care of before bed, so after Levi and Ivy were changed into their pajamas, they said goodnight to their kids and headed off to write some emails and finish up their work for the day. This left Levi and Ivy alone upstairs, which was the perfect time to break out the chocolate and marshmallows. As quietly as they could, they both crept out of their rooms and into the bathroom. They grabbed their supply of sugary sweets and got to work. Levi got the hairdryer out as Ivy unwrapped the chocolate bar. I can't believe we're brushing our teeth twice in one night, whispered Ivy. I mean, we have to try it. Mom is always telling us to take care of our teeth, said Levi with a smile. And you heard her. Chocolate made her teeth extra sparkly and clean. Ivy agreed with Levi as she placed a small piece of chocolate on her toothbrush and another on Levi's. He then turned the hairdryer on the quietest setting and held it over the toothbrushes, hoping it wouldn't take long to melt the chocolate into a tasty toothpaste. Well, it didn't, and before long, Levi turned off the hairdryer and he and Ivy were ready to brush their teeth. They held their toothbrushes tight, gave each other a smile, and started the countdown. 3, 2, 1, whispered Ivy as she and Levi held their toothbrushes up to their mouths, each one dripping with ooey gooey chocolate. Hey friends, that is the end of part 1 of the sticky situation explanation. Stay tuned for part 2. Thanks for joining us today. We hope you enjoyed the story and learned a little something too.
And since we know everyone has their own story, we'd love to hear yours.
If you have an idea for a Lively Lewis story, leave a comment on our Apple Podcast review page with 5 stars, your idea, and your little one's name.
Then maybe our next adventure will be with you.
Until our next Storytime Hangout.
Thanks for listening. We can't wait to share another fun Lively Lewis story with you.